Hi everyone, we're just going to give it another minute or two until 7 o'clock and then we'll get the meeting going. So thank you for your patience and we'll be right back. All right, it's 7:01, so I think we'll get started. Good evening and welcome to our online engagement event for the Circle Drive West Functional Planning Study. My name is Chelsea Lanning and I'm the transportation engineer coordinating this study and moderating tonight's event. I'm joined by Shalisa Keltz from the City of Saskatoon's Transportation Engineering Department, who will be helping me manage the Q&A forum, as well as Justin MacArthur and Henry Davos from CIMA Plus, who have been our consulting engineer completing this study. We look forward to tonight's presentation and discussion. Please note that the meeting will be recorded and posted to the City of Saskatoon Engage page for the Circle Drive West Functional Planning Study. This will allow residents who are unable to participate to watch the video and let us know if they have any additional questions or concerns. In addition, I'd like to recognize that we are in Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis. We recognize and honor their cultural traditions and connections to the land. Tonight, there will be an opportunity to ask questions after CIMA Plus has completed their presentation. We ask that you type your comments and questions into the question and answer box, and I will read them out. Please keep the wording respectful and we'll do our best to get to all the questions. If questions repeat, I will try to ask them only once. There's also a reply feature if you have a follow-up to a question that you've asked, or if you're unable to type your questions into the Q&A box, or you have other technical issues during the meeting, we ask that you reach out to us through one of our other engagement methods. We have options for email, phone, and the Project Engage page, which I will post into the chat box. And with that, I will hand the meeting over to Henry and Justin at CIMA Plus. Thanks.
Thank you, Chelsea. As Chelsea described, I'm Henry DeVos. I'm the Senior Planning Specialist with CIMA Plus, and I'm joined by Justin MacArthur. He's the project manager for this study for the city, and Jack Nipsu, who has helped us with the functional design component for this study. So I'll have those two to help us later on as we answer questions. So part one will be the presentation by the study team built around the plan most of you have already seen on the website, we hope. And then part two, as Chelsea described, a response to the questions that have been submitted. So I'll begin with a description of our study area. Hoping you can all see a very large arrow. And this little red outline describes where the study began. So this is Circle Drive. North is to the left. Top of the diagram is 22nd Street heading towards downtown Saskatoon. The red outline tells you where we were looking at as we tried to upgrade Circle Drive West and a portion of 22nd Street from just south of Clancy Drive to just north of Laurier Drive. So that is the study area where we began looking at the problems and how to upgrade Circle Drive West to freeway standards. So the open house purpose, obviously to present the recommended plan. We want to share some of the changes that were made following open house 2, where we presented a preferred plan, as we called it at the time, and to respond to final questions and gather comments. So a reminder of the study goals. improving safety and achieving a free flow travel along Circle Drive West. And that would be accomplished by removing the left-hand exits and entries that occur at the Clancy Drive and Laurier Drive intersections. We wanted to retain the current turning movements at both those two intersections, and we wanted to, at the same time, maintain or improve the multi-use trail pathways through the study area. So our study scope, what was involved in development of the long-term plan, and again, the freeway plan along Circle Drive West, upgrading the Circle Drive 22nd Street interchange, upgrading the 22nd Street Confederation Drive intersection, which is right alongside the interchange. Again, preserving, improving the multi-use trail pathway network in the study area. And what got added to our work along the way was an interim change to 11th Street interchange, because we had to restore a southbound access from Circle Drive. So we ended up extending a little bit towards the south. Work that was not included in what we were asked to do, and that's the ultimate Circle Drive 11th Street interchange configuration. Although options have been considered by a separate city study, and we will show you what that looks like a little later on. The railway grade separations that would be necessary in and around the interchange area at 11th, and 22nd Street Diefenbaker Drive intersection upgrading. So those three items were not part of our work. So a little overview of the study process and timeline. This has gone on much longer than anyone would have expected. Open House 1 was held in June 2019, where we spent time gathering the existing conditions and consulting with the community. Open House 2 in January 2020, we presented the preferred plan and invited public input in response to that plan. Then the unexpected part of our study process was the COVID-19 pandemic from March 2020 to September and still ongoing. A public engagement process was paused at that point. But the preferred plan was modified in response to the public input. And so here we are at Open House 3, presenting the recommended plan, again, to respond to final questions and gather comments. This, if things can proceed, will lead to City Council approval in spring 2022. So we'll start with some panels that describe the study background, starting with Circle Drive's overall role. It's a core route or an urban ring road in the City of Saskatoon's road network. It supports travel within and through the city. It will ultimately serve as a southwest leg of the proposed Saskatoon freeway. And as a ring road and freeway facility, it would normally only serve longer trip lengths. It's not meant to be a facility which you hop on and hop off, making short trips. Ideally, Circle Drive would only connect with key network roads if there was a do-over going on here. At 11th Street, 22nd Street, and 33rd Street. That's what that facility should look like as a freeway. So again, study background. One of the things we had to consider in looking at what the traffic volumes might be in future planning horizons. So the future growth had to be considered in developing a long-term system requirements. And again, in study background, thinking about or helping us understand what the freeway wants to be, what Circle Drive, what role does it play again? So the future Saskatoon freeway, which is this outside line here, doesn't include a southwest leg crossing the South Saskatchewan River. So 22nd Street, which begins outside the city as Highway 14, is one of several spokes connecting the future Saskatoon freeway with, and in the case of 22nd Street, Highway 7 and 14 with the Circle Drive Ring Road. And so the point we're going to be making is that this connection is, for all intents and purposes, part of the ring road. Ultimately, the traffic flow. There's only 3/4 of a ring road. So, and with that, existing Circle Drive connects 7, 14, and 60 west, highways 11 and 12 north. Nault Road connects those same westerly highways with Highway 16 north. That's Nault Road right here. And Nault Road, 22nd Street and Circle Drive connect Highway 16 north, again up here, with Circle Drive, southwest Circle Drive, and ultimately again the other provincial highways. So Nault Road presently serves as a northwest bypass connecting to Circle Drive West and Southwest, a role that should ultimately be played by the Saskatoon Freeway. So following completion of the Saskatoon Freeway, and again, there not being a southwest leg, Circle Drive West and Southwest will connect the south end of the future Saskatoon Freeway, and again, Highway 714 and 60 with these highways down here. And the future Saskatoon Freeway will connect 714 and 60 west with highways 16, 12, and 11 to the north. So ultimately, this leg of the ring road, the Saskatoon Freeway, will provide some relief ultimately, hopefully, for this section of Circle Drive. So in response to those coming pressures or growing pressures already is why the city is upgrading Circle Drive West to freeway standards, given the role that it has to play. And these are those same observations are documented on this panel, but I won't read them again. So although I will go back and emphasize from a problem statement perspective, as we try to define what it is we're trying to fix, the highway network is what I just described for you. And these are the bullets I went through. So part 2 of the problem statement is Southwest Circle Drive. So it completes the completion of the last gap at Circle Drive, which the city undertook, connecting 22nd Street and Lavalier Drive. So that redistributed the traffic flows in the city's road network, which includes obviously Circle Drive West. So those increasing congestion levels and safety concerns, the left on and left off turning movements inconsistent with a good freeway design and becoming more problematic with the increasing volumes. And so in response to that, the city plans to upgrade Circle Drive West to freeway standards. Again, you're hearing that a couple of times now. Now, part 3 of our problem statement, focusing now on the mix of the right hand, which are the freeway exits and entrances, and the left hand, which are the expressway exits and entrances. That can challenge driver behavior and lead to poor safety outcomes. It's where you will often find truck traffic in both lanes as they think about which side of the highway, which side of the roadway they need to exit from. So then looking at the Circle Drive segments, what the design standards are today and what the lengths, very approximate lengths of these sections are, starting with Circle Drive East, which is Highway 11 south of the river to 11th Street. That's already a freeway, that's 10 kilometers. From 11th to 22nd, we have a signalized Clancy intersection in between, approximately 1 kilometer. Crossing 22nd Street, we have an interchange, so that's part of Circle Drive that wants to be a freeway. From 22nd Street to 33rd, in the middle of that, we have a signalized Laurier, again, approximately 1 kilometer length. Then crossing 33rd Street, again, an interchange, again, a section of it that's waiting to become a freeway. And then from 33rd Street to Lavalier Drive, Highway 11 on the north, again, signalized Airport and Avenue C. So looking at some of the problem areas or constraints as they exist right in the study area. Let me just catch up here. So first of all, the interchange spacing, where that wants to be best practices would have interchange spacing from 22nd Street either to 11th, 22nd Street to 33rd, and that's where you're going to get spacing that's between 1.5 and 2 kilometers. But today we have 600 meters from 22nd Street to Laurier and between 800 and 900 meters to Clancy. So certainly what falls far short of what we would need to build a suitably designed freeway. Cost-effective design here would simply just close those 2 intersections. They would disappear, and again, we'd have 11th, 22nd, and 33rd. Again, the existing Circle Drive 22nd Street interchange configuration is unusual. If you come up 22nd, you follow a loop ramp, a very small loop ramp to get you around to Circle Drive North, Circle Drive to the north side of the city. The return movement from Circle Drive coming southbound, you have a ramp which takes you straight on to 22nd Street. So the design of that interchange was configured for 22nd Street West to Circle Drive North, again, Highway 14 and 22nd Street to Circle Drive and the other highway connections. Again, problematic. If you come down this ramp, it enters on this side. If we're going to 6-lane 22nd Street, which is what we're going to be doing, you can no longer weave through 22nd Street to make a left turn at Diefenbaker. So and again, the proximity of this intersection to that interchange only being 100 meters away, ideally, Diefenbaker would have been the first intersection on 22nd once we get away from Circle Drive. So given the congestion here, one of the reasons why these two intersections are being used as they are by local residents who are unaccustomed to the travel patterns they enjoy today. And so those were the bullets I just went through. So now to define what we call the planning and design context for Circle Drive, design of high-speed roadways requires baseline geometric and safety standards, and those standards must be applied consistently to get to achieve best practices to achieve the safety you need for a road like that. And so Circle Drive's design parameters are defined by its role in the city's overall network, and I showed you that earlier. So Circle Drive must achieve the corresponding design consistency to be a safe facility. So to achieve freeway standards and retain all current movements along Circle Drive, again, two of the study goals come out there, would require highly complex and costly measures and would impact right-of-way requirements from adjacent businesses or residences, etc., and as well as, or instead, the power transmission and CNR lines. So this is what impacts our study goals. So we'll go back now and try to summarize some of the public input that we've heard at and following Open House 2. Probably one of the bigger concerns we heard was neighborhood access and egress and business access. So the concern there is reduced access at Laurier and Clancy drives, increasing travel times. And with that, a concern about revised business access to the west side of Circle Drive. So our response there is that upgrading from expressway to freeway standards commonly results in changes in travel patterns, particularly when you see the very close intersection spacing we have along existing Circle Drive. So the project website will show before and after travel paths affected by the recommended plan. We showed those changes in the travel paths at our Open House 2, and we've amended those to show what would happen with the recommended plan. 22nd Street and local road network, the concern there being additional traffic will divert to an already congested 22nd Street. And our response there is that the recommended plan will actually improve performance along 22nd, both crossing Confederation Drive and Circle Drive. And the city plans to conduct a future study of the 22nd Street Diefenbaker Drive intersection. So that's the third location near our study area. But overall, the performance through our study area has been improved by our recommended plan. And then 11th Street interchange and the rail crossings, another concern. The at-grade rail crossings continue to delay drivers in and out of particularly Montgomery Place. And the response there is that the city is examining railway solutions that may ultimately alleviate rail traffic impacting 11th Street. And we will show you a concept that the city has prepared for that location a bit later. Continuing with what we heard, noise attenuation was another concern. Improved attenuation for Meadow Green and Montgomery Place, possibly others. And the response there is the city has asked us, CIMA Plus, to undertake noise analysis to identify locations warranting additional mitigation. And the noise study findings will be posted on the project website. Another concern we heard was safety, and that involved opinions that we heard were for and against removing the two traffic signals. And the concern is, will the diverted traffic result in potentially busier school zones? So the response there is that the city is going to monitor traffic flows to ensure that appropriate traffic control measures are in place where the changes in flows create a problem of some kind. The other one was free flow Circle Drive, probably not too far removed from the concerns we heard about safety. Again, opinions for and against removing the two traffic signals to achieve a free flow facility, and opinions for and against upgrading Circle Drive with challenges recognized that the city might face along Circle Drive North. And the response there is that the city will conduct future studies to assess Circle Drive North, but the need to improve the performance of Circle Drive West and its connection to the south does not hinge on what happens with Circle Drive North. Again, continuing with what we heard, emergency access. And the concern there was that will emergency access to area neighborhoods be affected? And our response is that EMS input has been sought to ensure suitable access is maintained. So we're not losing sight of what that will require. And lastly, the C&R pedestrian underpasses. And the concern there is that the existing pedestrian underpasses are considered unsafe, often unclean and unsanitary. And the response there is that the existing pedestrian tunnels will be removed by the recommended plan from under Circle Drive, and the city will improve the existing rail underpasses, subject to discussion with CN Rail. It wasn't something we could accomplish with what we're doing. The overhead power lines prevent something extending across the road and rail at the same time. So here's the previously preferred plan. This is what the plan we showed you at Open House 2. The numbers on there correspond with some of the changes we've made since this plan was first shown. And so if you can follow the numbers on that plan, number 1, we've added a ramp from 22nd Street eastbound to Circle Drive southbound, and that came to us as a request, or as people brought to our attention the higher volumes, and particularly when we looked at what's happening with Nault Road and the truck traffic that comes in from the west, etc. This seemed like a prudent change to make, and this ramp utilizes the existing structures that are there today, so it was a fairly simple ramp to add. The ramp, therefore, for the truck traffic, etc., coming in from the west, avoids the signals having to go. The trucks having to go through the signal at Confederation, and they don't have to hit the signal at Circle Drive. So it's very efficient, and we think a safe improvement. Number 2, that's revised connections to Fairmont Drive from 22nd Street eastbound. So today, you can come out of Fairmont Drive and go this way to the north. And one of the problems that the drivers have experienced is a desire to make a left turn at Confederation. So different measures have been in place at different times to try to prevent that. It simply wasn't a safe weaving maneuver far too short a distance. So this is now an exit from 22nd Street into Fairmont Drive, helps replace the movement that no longer exists here. And the movement onto 22nd Street now comes from, I want to say Fairmont. There's a different name for this. Pardon me for forgetting what it is. Now this connection on is here, and now drivers have sufficient time to weave across and make a left at Confederation if that's what they wish to do. So number 3 is we've added a connection from southbound Circle Drive to Clancy Drive. That movement did not exist on the previous the preferred plan, and so now you can exit back here to get on what is a CD road, again utilizing existing structures, and we make our way through. You can make it to Clancy from the north. Now this plan doesn't show it, but that's one of the changes we've made. 4 is we've added a connection from Clancy Drive eastbound to 22nd Street. And so that you can now get on from Clancy. You can either get on Circle Drive northbound, or you can stay on the CD road on this side, and you can actually make your way to 22nd Street. That is a movement that doesn't exist today. Number 5 is we revise the access strategy to some of the parcels here as we achieve this grade separation. There's been some changes made there. And number 6, we revise Clancy Drive to southbound Circle Drive ramp here. This has been modified. We needed a little more time to make the grades work out for us, so that has bumped the trail you see here to the west a little bit. And we've added a dual left turn from eastbound 22nd to northbound Confederation Drive. So it's a double left turn lane here. So those are the changes we made since Open House 2. And there may be some more subtle changes. So starting with the recommended plan, this is one I'm hoping most of you have taken an opportunity to have a look at, because it's been on the city's project website. And so this now reflects all of those changes I was just telling you about. The all movement. For example, one thing I'll point out, it used to be that if you were coming down Circle Drive and wanted to go east towards downtown, you had to exit onto Fairmont and do what's called a jug handle left turn, come around here, and that's what this little ramp here accomplished for you. Now you simply exit here and go this way. And it used to be that, again, this ramp that took you over top of Confederation Drive. Now you simply make the right turn and you've got a sufficient distance to merge to the left and make a left turn. And if you come off this way, this also used to be a connection directly to Confederation Drive. Now you make this exit and you have a dedicated auxiliary lane to take you straight into the mall. So it's a free flow lane sitting outside the core lanes. So that's just some of the changes that have happened here that come with this new design. As well on this side, this ramp could no longer exist with the Clancy Drive on ramp. They overlapped each other. That wasn't going to work. So this is the change we've made. It's at 11th Street. You now have this loop ramp to exit onto to 11th Street from Circle Drive southbound. And the on ramp moved a little bit, but the same maneuver is there. And again, there is a longer term concept that the city has prepared, which I will show you shortly. So this is an update of the cross sections we showed you at Open House 2. So along the bottom, we have three. There's cross section A, which is this one here. Cross section B is on the next panel. Cross section C is the third one. So this shows you Circle Drive just south of Laurier. So the Circle Drive goes over and Clancy Drive will go under. So these are the ramps you see traveling in both directions on either side. And this gives you an appreciation of where the road sits relative to the terrain around it. This is the cross section at just immediately south of 22nd Street, again through Circle Drive. Now you're seeing the two ramps on either side of the Circle Drive. And these are the ramps that utilize the old bridges. If you look at this, you'll see that this these lanes right here represent the lanes going over top of 22nd using the old bridges. This is where the interchange was. This is where the interchange will be today. And this is 22nd Street, Circle Drive just north of Laurier. And now, in this case, Laurier goes over top of Circle Drive. And this is where we had to change some of the driveways because we're beginning to elevate. And these are the ramps or the CD roads on either side that you're seeing. Again, it gives you an appreciation of power lines, sea and rail right away, and where the nearest house might be and the church property on the other side. So this is the future railway grade separation concept prepared by another team for the city. And here it comes off of, so here, north is to the top. This is 11th Street, swinging to the south. There's the ramps that we showed you being changed in our design. And now we're crossing over the railway lines and back onto 11th Street. And this is a connection to the local road, parallel to the rail line. So again, this ultimately would be how the grade separation would be accomplished for the rail lines, so that if you're exiting at 11th, you're not waiting for trains crossing the road. So this shows you the multi-use trail pathways, and all of the brightly colored lines are all new portions of trail, beginning with the 3 pedestrian crossings. And again, there is already multi-use trail on this side, pathway on this side. There's now a new pathway here, new structure underneath this ramp here, and then you cross under Circle Drive on both sides with the roadway, and then pathways on both sides. New pathway down here. This got moved because of Circle Drive, and we go under Circle Drive here. Where do they go? Under Circle Drive, and then we still have the railway crossing to be improved at some future point as the city engages with CN Rail. And this one here, likewise, here we go over top of Circle Drive, parallel along with the Laurier structure. Come back down, but we still have the old CNR crossing to contend with. And finally, the last one, long ramp to get up, across, back down. So some summary of the changes that have been made to Circle Drive. It's been expanded to 6 core lanes within the study area. The 2 traffic signals and the associated left-hand turning movements have been removed. And the 2 substandard low-speed curves across 22nd Street have been removed, which permits improving the speed limit. Compact all-movement Circle Drive 22nd Street interchange. So the existing unconventional and expansive interchange configuration is replaced with a much smaller footprint. And the new configuration accommodates long-term emphasis between Highway 7, 14, 22nd Street West and Circle Drive South. Southbound exit to Fairmont Drive is retained from the new collector distributor road. And the Laurier Drive overpasses Circle Drive with access on-off Circle Drive 2 from the north. Clancy Drive underpasses Circle Drive, all movements on-off Circle Drive, as well as a new access provided from eastbound Clancy Drive to 22nd Street eastbound via a CD road. The southbound exit to 11th Street, as we mentioned, has been relocated. The existing exit conflicts with southbound on-ramp from Clancy. It becomes a loop ramp south of 11th. And then there's a new direct ramp from southbound Circle to eastbound 22nd. The existing turning movement exits Circle Drive to Fairmont Drive, which again is known as a jug handle design, and that's going to that disappears. That just becomes an access to the whole Fairmont area. So a comparison now of 22nd Street and existing conditions. 1 minute. So along 22nd Street, this section is still 4 lanes, 2 each way. This is now 6 core lanes, 3 each way with all the auxiliary lanes. It's now, over here, 200 meters from here to here, as opposed to the short little jaunt we had here, about 100 meters. So that's an improvement. We have a T intersection with Confederation Drive. And that's going to move traffic much more efficiently. It's not mixed in with other turning movements off and on the Circle Drive. Those are all here now. So again, a much improved design. And then the single signalized intersections with the Circle Drive ramps, that is illustrated up here. This takes place, this signal is below Circle Drive as it crosses over top of 22nd. So you have this movement and this movement happening simultaneously. You have I got that right? This movement and this movement happening simultaneously. And this movement exiting Circle Drive and this movement exiting Circle Drive happening simultaneously. Okay. We have a new exit, the new ramp that I've been talking about earlier. You can see a little more detail here. Eastbound 22nd to southbound Circle Drive. However, one of the changes that has been made is that westbound on 22nd, you now have to go to Diefenbaker to get into this area here. So that's the summary of the changes at 22nd Street, a summary of the objectives. So the recommended plan had to balance 2 objectives. We've achieved free flow standards along Circle Drive. So uniform 90 km/h. I said design speed here, that's incorrect. Posted speed, that's the speed limit along Circle Drive. The design consistency improves safety by removing all those left-hand turning movements. And then when it comes to retaining the turning movements that we tried to achieve at Clancy Drive and Laurier Drive, all turning movements are off on Circle Drive, retained at Clancy. There's a new access provided from eastbound Clancy Drive to eastbound 22nd via CD road. Access from Laurier Drive is to and from the north on Circle, so that is where we were not able to maintain all of the turning movements. Access from Circle Drive southbound to Fairmont Drive is retained. New access provided from southbound Circle to eastbound 22nd. New access provided from eastbound 22nd to Fairmont. And the changes better accommodate traffic crossing 22nd from the South Mall to the North Mall, a movement that wasn't accommodated with the existing conditions. So summary of the benefits: the recommended plan achieves improved 22nd Street roadway performance and safety, improved Circle Drive West performance and safety, improved system capacity and cross-city travel times, consistent facility design better meets driver expectations coming through the Circle Drive Ring Road, an improved multi-use trail pathway network and pedestrian safety, and the new configuration better supports Circle Drive's long-term role in the provincial highway network. But now a summary of the chief concern that we have heard. So the recommended plan did not resolve all the stakeholder concerns. One in particular stands out. The 2 traffic signals at Clancy and Laurier were retained by Circle Drive's original Stage 1 design to accommodate convenient local access. If the traffic signals continued to be retained, it would lead to increasing traffic congestion and safety concerns as traffic in the city and the surrounding region grows. This will include traffic diverted through the city from the south end of the future Saskatoon Freeway's West Leg, as well as the regional highways. So Circle Drive's Stage 1 design unfortunately resulted in area residents and business owners relying on what are now long established but intended to be interim travel patterns. So again, the recommended plan is long-term. Removing the signals after these many years will change the routes in and out of some neighborhoods and business areas, and is considered to be disruptive by affected drivers, by some of the stakeholders that have provided us with feedback. Upgrading Circle Drive West to free flow standards is considered a long-term project by the city. The city hopes that preparing the plan at this still early stage will give area residents and business owners time to adjust their plans where possible before the changes are implemented. And generally, major transportation projects with potential to affect large areas and/or existing development are commonly planned long in advance of anticipated construction timelines. The original plans for Circle Drive West did not foresee the Saskatoon Freeway, nor the absence of the southwest leg. So the city has revisited its plans for Circle Drive West to reflect these changing circumstances. So a summary then of city commitments, what the city is still promises to do to consolidate the long-term plan: noise assessment along Circle Drive West, the 11th Street interchange upgrading and associated railway grade separations, 22nd Street and Diefenbaker Drive intersection upgrading, and improvement of the railway pedestrian underpasses subject to discussion with CN Rail. So thank you for listening. And Chelsea, I guess this is where I turn it back over to you if I haven't put everybody to sleep.
All right, great. Thank you, Henry. Just before we get into the Q&A, I wanted to update the group on the next steps in this project. So the next step will be to complete the engineering of the recommended plan, including the noise modeling, and to develop cost estimates for the project. The project will be brought to the Standing Policy Committee on Transportation for their consideration, planned to do that this spring. And after that, if it is adopted, it would be added to the citywide infrastructure priority list, and that is included with the city's Saskatoon Transportation Master Plan. And if you're interested in those reports, I can post a link to the Saskatoon Transportation Master Plan in the chat. But now I would like to open it up to question and answer period. So, and I also wanted to mention, since we did have a question, we have 73 attendees with us at the moment, so bear with us as we try and go through these questions. There are a few, so we'll do our best to get to everything tonight. So the first one, why are there pedestrian overpasses leading into underpasses? This seems strange. Would this be unique in the city? So I can start with that answer and then I might pass it over to Henry. I think he answered this during his presentation, but I can't think of another location where we have this in the city, but there are constraints in the area. Henry, did you want to go over those constraints again?
I can do that. We did look at trying to get the elevated pedestrian crossings. Now, remember at Clancy, we are under Circle Drive anyway, so the difference is not as great. But at the at Laurier and at the one to the north, when we tried to stay elevated to go over the rail, we ran into those power transmission lines. So that was not going to be an easy fix. So instead, what we show is us crossing over top of Circle Drive in those two locations, under Circle Drive at Clancy. And the city then has to engage with CN Rail to see if they can do something much better than those little tunnels you see there today. And now that would certainly be a much shorter crossing than what is there today, and a modern design for an underpass, not the little tunnels you go through today. But that's one of the 4 commitments we listed that the city is going to look at in the future.
Thank you, Henry. Great answer. Yeah, those can be tricky for sure, working with the rail. I am going to go to this question. Sorry, there's a few long ones in here that I'm trying to read and figure out where they go. Any work of this nature has to consider the impact on adjoining areas. With respect to the proposed pedestrian overpass at the west end of 29th Street, which will replace the tunnels, I think this is a good thing and that it will increase the confidence people have to cross Circle Drive at that point. However, the potential increase in pedestrian traffic also has to be viewed from the west, where the exit point is the back lane. There are concerns with the graffiti vandalism in that alley. Given this and the alley not being observed from any street, have plans been compiled to provide a safe and secure exit through this alley? And I can answer that question. Or Shaliza, do you want to answer that question?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Shaliza Kells. And Chelsea, feel free to add on if you want to. But those are great points, and I could say that that's definitely something that we'll need to look into as we get further along this design process. Right now, we're just at the functional stage, and when we get to the detailed design stage, we'll definitely have to look at that. We'll probably end up doing what's called a CEPTED review, which is crime prevention through environmental design.
All right. Thank you, Shaliza. Can you still hear me? Sorry, my screen is gone.
We still hear you.
Oh, okay.
And I can still see you in the corner of my screen.
Okay, I'm having some technical difficulties. I can still read the questions, so I'll continue to do that, but just so you know, on the back end, I can't see anything but the questions. So the next one is, let's go to the city expanded west with an enlarged Westview, Hampton Village, Dundonald, and Kensington neighborhood. 33rd Street, the main east-west access remains a 2-lane street. Along with increased numbers of trains, their length, and their reduced speed, there can be considerable waits on 33rd, both eastbound and westbound. Did your plans consider recommending a rail underpass for 33rd Street immediately east of Circle Drive? And if not, will you send that as an observation and recommendation to the traffic authorities? Shaliza, I'll pass this one to you.
Sure. Thanks again for the question. So first of all, this plan or this study did not look at doing that work. However, the city has done a rather large amount of work looking at relocating rails. And maybe I'd ask Chelsea if she could post some of those reports so that everybody could have a look at that work and get a better understanding of where we currently sit at the city with that project.
I'm just going to post a link to the original rail relocation versus grade separation report in the chat. So that should be there. There were several reports on that project that went forward, so there's quite a few, but that was the original. And anybody who's interested in any additional information, you could email the email that I posted, cdwfps@saskatoon.ca, which it's also posted in the chat. So the third question from this one particular resident: the existing sound attenuation wall on the west side of Circle Drive between 33rd Street and Laurier Drive is ineffective and does not appear to ever have been completed. Parts of it were built on the downslope, reducing its effective height. The height is insufficient. The height varies drastically between adjoining structures, and it is aesthetically unpleasing. No other city sound barrier looks this bad. Given your plan, we'll add an extra lane between 33rd Street and 22nd Street and the accompanying noise as part of this project. Will the sound barrier be completed to a useful height? I'll start and then maybe pass it off to CIMA Plus. CIMA, well, part of the work continuing to be undertaken on this project is a traffic noise sound attenuation. Help me out here on the terms, but study, and based on that, recommendations will be made. Do you have anything to add, Henry?
I think you got it. We're going to conduct a study which looks at what the noise levels are that will be generated in the future with the future traffic volumes, and that will be compared with the walls and whatever sound attenuation may exist today, and then would recommend where additional measures are warranted. And that might include the location that this question is focused on.
Perfect, thank you. So since the completion of the south portion of Circle Drive, a large amount of traffic has been dumped onto Confederation Drive northbound between 22nd and 33rd Streets. At certain times of the day, it's nearly impossible to exit Massey Place going west and turning south onto Confederation Drive because of this. How will your plan address this issue, which, as noted, was caused by completion of the southern portion of Circle Drive? So this is, I'm guessing, a question mostly about operations of Confederation Drive, which were outside of the scope of this project. But Shaliza, did you have anything to add for an answer on this one?
Sure. So I think it's pretty safe to say that with these changes that we're planning to make, the idea is it will draw more vehicles towards Circle Drive as the preferred option.
Thank you. Oh, I think I published the wrong one. The one I was going to ask next. No big deal. So why no southbound exit at Laurier Drive? This does not retain the same functionality we already have. This will cause significant traffic issues in a neighborhood area. I'll pass that one to Henry.
Good. Let me, I did prepare them. So this is Laurier. What I'm going to show you here are some of the travel maps, we can call them that we prepared, that we updated to reflect the recommended plan. And so this is Laurier Drive to and from Circle Drive South. And what I'm actually tempted to do . One second. Bear with me. This is a PDF of the presentation, and it's a little more convenient for me to drill in here. So this is the Laurier Drive connection to existing Circle Drive. And now, as a person, as is pointed out by the question, you can get off and on to the south on Circle and from the south on Circle. So when that changes, you're still going to be able to use Laurier to go to and from the north. But now if you're anywhere here in Laurier, you're going to have to follow Confederation. And here's how you would get on to the south. If you're coming from the south, you'd exit here and go this way. So it's, from a travel length perspective, I would argue it's not a longer trip. You're just going to have to move through here. And our traffic analysis tells us this is still going to be a good functioning piece of 22nd. It's going to function better than what you see there today. So once these new patterns establish themselves, once the cities had time after making these kinds of improvements to monitor traffic flows, tweak all of the signal timings, we're confident this is going to be a pretty efficient connection. And again, this is simply because we've only got 600 meters here. It's not, freeways are never intended to have connections with that kind of spacing. That's as much as I can tell you, Chelsea.
Perfect, thank you, Henry. The next one, I think it was from earlier in the presentation, are these new problem statements. I haven't heard these before, which I think we have just kind of rephrased the problem statements to make them hopefully more understandable for you guys. But Henry, any additions there?
Well, the presentation just gave us time to think about how we were going to present all the information at hand. And we, as you just pointed out, they probably haven't been presented in this fashion before, but now we're making them as clear as we can. As we, I think one of the things we came away from the second open house, I would say, is people not understanding, or at least many people not understanding why the system needed to be upgraded. So we put a little more effort into explaining why that is.
Perfect, thank you. So the next question is maybe one for Shaliza. Why was Diefenbaker and 22nd Street intersection excluded? I noticed in the plan that it includes a free right turn onto Diefenbaker North. Is that included?
Yeah, I believe what's included in the plan is what is currently out there. In terms of why it was not included in the scope of the work, we were focused more on Circle Drive, and we focused on the more direct area of influence for Circle Drive. I would like to say that, you know, the city does recognize that an assessment and possible upgrades may be required in the future. The long-term plan is to continue the widening of 22nd Street further west as development occurs and the bus rapid transit system is implemented. And once the recommended plan for Circle Drive has been finalized, additional work can be completed to determine the required upgrades. And then we can coordinate that work with the 22nd Street, BRT, future growth, and then this plan.
Thank you, Shaliza. The next one is just a comment. If you close Laurier Drive to the south, if you close Laurier to drive south, it will greatly increase traffic at Diefenbaker and 22nd. So thank you for that comment. Another question about the pedestrian tunnels. Why can't we move or raise the power lines to accommodate a full pedestrian overpass? Does anybody want to take that one? I'm not sure where to direct it.
All I could add, am I online there, Chelsea?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, all I would add is that would not be a minor undertaking trying to raise those lines over a couple of kilometers here. Major undertaking. And the one thing I haven't mentioned as well is once you get them to the other side of the tracks, you still have to bring them back to grade in behind some of those houses. So you would have that aspect to it as well. But the power lines was the major impediment, just simply the cost of trying to go in there and do that.
Yes, and as Henry mentioned in his presentation, the city will continue to talk with the rail companies about these issues that we face with these underpasses. Publish that one. Another question about the underpasses. Are all 3 tunnel crossings being closed or just the one at 29th Street? If they're all being closed, won't that greatly increase the traffic at the proposed 29th Street pedestrian overpass? And see safety, etc. concern previously raised. This would make it worse. So I think I will pass that one to Henry, but we aren't anticipating closing any of the existing connections. Correct, Henry?
No, all 3 connections will remain. We're removing the tunnels from under Circle Drive in all 3 locations, but it's the tunnels under the tracks that need to be upgraded at some future time. But all 3 crossings will remain in operation.
Thank you. Okay. We've got a question about how many vehicles currently go through Laurier Drive to Circle Drive South. I will maybe pass this one to CIMA Plus about the operations of the southbound turn onto Circle Drive.
I'm afraid what I brought with today was, and just in case it was a question about traffic, but what I have are the future volumes, but I'm afraid I do not have the current volumes. So I can't tell you what it's doing today. So therefore, you don't see the movements here in the diagram that I have on the screen. So I can't tell you what's there today. So therefore, this has reassigned all those volumes in the network. Those are missing here. They are now elsewhere. So unfortunately, I can't help you with that.
Yeah, it's just to add, a large part of the assessment was about safety, and one of the outcomes of our study was that movement couldn't be completed there, so the trips have been assigned elsewhere and the appropriate analysis performed. Sorry, I'm just having a little bit of technical difficulty here. Number 5 is the issue. This has not been addressed, and the impact to the mall and local community is huge. I'm not sure what number 5 refers to. So if that was your question, maybe just a clarification, and then we could answer that. So I'm just going to move on to the next one, since I'm not quite sure what that one's about. What does the grade look like at the 11th Street exit? I'm not sure if this is referring to the proposed exit or the existing. I'm not sure. Does anybody have an answer for that or can interpret what that means?
I don't know exactly which one they're asking, whether they're talking about the one that's being removed. I presume they're talking about the new one. And that's just going to be a very smooth, very conventional design to get traffic, which is under 11th and then around and back up. So there's nothing unusual going on here that would cause a concern.
Okay, and then just another question about the 11th Street exit for you, Henry. What does the intersection look like at 11th Street and the exit? Still looks dangerous still. What about traffic backing up onto Circle Drives? Southbound Circle Drive traffic would come out of the tunnel and be faced with cars at a curve. looks very scary.
Well, all of the signing will be there to make sure they know what's coming, and then they make a right-hand exit. It's a parallel lane, parallel deceleration lane into what is a generous loop ramp. So from our perspective, it would, and before it gets built, plans like this will all go through safety audits. So before there are drivers on a facility like this, it will have to have passed those tests.
Great, thank you, Henry. I know we've got that question a few times, so that's a great answer. The next one is, we've asked to see a specific plan for the mall exit and entrance on Laurier Drive, and we still have not seen this. I can answer this one. At this time, we're not planning any changes to the driveways at the mall. And that's probably why you haven't seen a plan showing any changes. So the next one, so traffic will have to travel farther down Circle Drive to access 11th Street.
Correct.
Okay. We've already answered that one once. The next one, I think almost everyone in the city will agree that Avenue C at Circle Drive is the main issue in the city. When will you tackle this? Shaliza, did you want to try and answer this one?
Sure. Currently, we don't have a plan for when we will be tackling that. I would ask that the person who posed that question, you could have a look at our transportation master plan. And in that plan, in the appendices, there is a prioritization list that lists all of the city's projects in order of how they're prioritized. And you'll find that project is pretty high on that list.
Thank you, Shaliza. Will the speed limit increase at 33rd through Clancy once this change is completed? And the asker did also add, thanks for answering this question in the objective section of the presentation. So did you just want to reiterate the speed limit through the study area, Henry? Just for...
Yeah, this will make it 90 kilometers per hour throughout the whole this whole section of Circle Drive. And then obviously slowing down once you get north of 33rd.
Perfect. I'm going to go to one of the things mentioned was fixing the highway network. Why are you removing the ramp over Confed when exiting from Circle to 22nd Street West? Now all trucks will have to go through the Confed intersection. I'm going to pass that one to Henry, I think.
Yeah,
the new movements.
Yeah, so we've talked about that earlier. One of the reasons why this ramp no longer is salvageable. We're going to 22nd Street is going to become 3 core lanes each way, and when you add all of the auxiliary lanes in here, anyone coming down that ramp that is there today could not safely make it into the left turn slot for Diefenbaker. So that's one reason why it shouldn't be there. And now, yes, all the movements, that same turn is made here. This configuration of this interchange was largely because without the southwest leg in Circle Drive, this ramp and this loop ramp were there because this was the primary flow through this interchange. And with our design, that changes. This will ultimately be relieved by Saskatoon Freeway, and this will become the more significant movement through the interchange as far as the longer trips, the regional trips that are coming through the city.
Perfect. And then as far as the highway network, Shaliza, did you want to just talk a little bit about the Saskatoon Freeway project being conducted by the Ministry of Highways and Infrastructure that's just kind of starting? Or?
Sure. I mean, the Ministry of Highways is currently doing a functional plan, so a similar plan at this same level as what we're doing here for the Saskatoon Freeway. They're working on phase 1 right now, and they're hoping to be done that soon, and then they'll be moving on to phase 2. The Saskatoon Freeway definitely impacts this location. And if you just Google Saskatoon Freeway, you'll find all of their plans and their timelines.
Thanks, Shaliza. The next one, how is this going to help semi-traffic heading westward to Highway 7 and such? Heading I'm not sure who to pass that one off to. Perhaps Henry. So how is this going to help semi-traffic heading west to Highway 7?
Well, I would, if I backed up the plan a little bit here, but traffic, truck traffic, if I think about the primary movement for traffic that is crossing through this segment of the city, they're going to be coming from Circle Drive or going to the South Saskatchewan River crossing, the provincial highways on the south side of the city. They now come through here, don't have to stop at signals anymore, can even exit and avoid this signal and make this turn if they're coming from the Highway 14, Highway 7 into the city. Again, they've got a free flow turn, taking them onto Circle Drive southbound. This is going to be overall better able to handle truck traffic, let alone all kinds of traffic. But this is simply going to be a free flow facility now, and better movements on and off 22nd. If we accept that this is going to become the primary movement now. Thank you.
Okay. The next one, will any feedback from tonight be considered before the plan goes to the city committee? So I think, I'm not sure who to pass that one off to. Maybe Shaliza?
Yeah, thanks so much for that comment. Obviously, we're having this open house to gather everybody's feedback on these plans. The plan going forward, as Chelsea had outlined, is we're going to take all of these comments and all of this feedback and draft up the report to present to committee. So that's how we plan to use all the comments that we're getting from tonight.
Thank you, Shaliza. And as you mentioned before, that's anticipated for this next spring. So the next one, why not allow Fairlight Drive to access the off-ramp to take Circle South? Fairlight is a larger road and could handle the traffic out. I'm maybe going to hand that one to Henry. And
so repeat the question. I'm trying to understand what the question is. That Fairlight is the east-west road parallel to the 22nd here.
Yeah, so why not allow Fairlight Drive to access the off-ramp to take Circle South? It's the routing.
Well, if we tried to do that, we're going to have more. What we've created now is a facility that respects best practices. We've got an interchange facility and all of its connections, and we don't have, we've cleaned up what's going on here, so this performs better at Confederation on 22nd. So is that conceivable, putting a ramp off here? It's not something you want to do. You want to separate movements from a local road to a freeway ramp. That's not something best practices would have you do. So it's not something we would recommend as part of our design.
So the next one.
But sorry if I could interrupt. And besides,
Sure.
that movement is right here. So it's not as if, if I look at this whole neighborhood here, they're not going to go out of their way, and they're heading south on Circle Drive. So it doesn't create a big advantage, as far as I can tell, for most of the trips that are going to be generated in this area.
Perfect, thank you. The next one, with your plan, is the only way for westbound traffic on 22nd Street to access Park Ridge and Fairhaven to use Diefenbaker and 22nd Street intersections.
Correct.
Okay. The next one. Why, I think we've already answered this once, but I know it's a hot topic for people. Why is the full north and southbound access to and from Laurier Drive not being maintained in the plan? I'll pass that to Henry.
So this question is again about the movements to and from the south?
Yes, at Laurier Drive.
Yeah, they're simply, Laurier Drive is only 600 meters from 22nd Street interchange. It is simply too close. If you look at this ramp here, pulling traffic on Circle Drive, we don't have a place here to bring traffic through and off Circle Drive. Likewise, in this direction, how are we going to get traffic from here to Circle Drive southbound? When this was a signal, that was easy to do with a stoplight, but this is now high-speed traffic and very tightly constrained area, so the options have disappeared.
Okay, thank you. So next, as a pedestrian or cyclist, where would I cross from Confed Mall to the Tim Hortons on Fairlight Drive, or from the North Mall to the South Mall? Maybe get you to bring up the pedestrian plan and give that one a whirl, Henry.
Yeah, that's you can see that here as well. And pedestrian traffic from here to here is going to have to use Diefenbaker unless there's some future overpass in mind. But there is no crossing here that I can tell. Now, maybe wait a minute. Just trying to remember what this would provide here. Yeah, I'm not convinced that's an option. This is where I'd like to bring Jack Nipsu up. He has a better appreciation of what this urban signal might accommodate, but it will also have an impact on the efficiency of the signal timing. Jack, are you still with us, Jack?
Yeah, I'm here. So I think it's one of the things that we'd have to look at with respect to signal timings. Conceivably, it would be possible to have a pedestrian crossing on the west side of that Confederation Way interchange. So I think that there's an option there, but it's something we'd have to have a look at in terms of what impacts that would have, as Henry mentioned, on signal timings and operations of that intersection itself.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, so I hope that answered your question. I think we already answered that one. Okay, I live in Montgomery Place. Removing the Circle Drive exit to 11th Street is a terrible move. Currently, the only relief we have to get into Montgomery when a train is traveling westbound is 11th Street. The proposed plan asks us to continue on Circle Drive south and loop back to 11th Street. If a train is traveling west to Chapel Yards, we will have to wait at 11th Street for the train to clear. How is this helping us? I think this is kind of a two-part question. The first part about moving the ramp onto 11th Street, I'll send to Henry. And the second one about the train, maybe I'll send to Shaliza. So we'll start with Henry.
Yeah, so if we look at Clancy, Now that this is becoming a freeway, the signal is gone. What the traffic signal did was it would alternate which of these movements had priority. So if you had traffic entering or traffic exiting, they weren't necessarily occurring at the same time. But now that this becomes a free flow facility, people just turn right and on they go. You cannot have an off coming through here at the same time. And second, together with that concept we showed regarding this interchange here, this for us is the concept for getting this movement moved to a loop ramp, again, a conventional interchange design, but then this would be part of what Shalise is going to describe, ultimately what happens with the whole interchange here. And the timing of this upgrading and what happens here, are they happening in tandem? That I don't know, so I'll leave that aspect to Shalise.
Yeah, thanks, Henry. I think you basically answered or said what I was going to say, and that is that, you know, we are talking about a future configuration, a future plan with this project, the Circle Drive West Functional Project, and the same with the grade separation at the rail. That's also a future plan. At this point, we don't have any timeline set for either of those plans. But if we could get them done at the same time, I think we'd see a huge benefit with the traffic operations in this area.
Okay. There's a related question. If the north-south CN line is blocked at 11th Street and the CP train is blocking the intersection at Fairlight and Elevator Road, how will emergency vehicles get to Montgomery Place if this proposed plan forces the traffic to the east side of the CN tracks? By removing the right-hand turn on the west side of the CN tracks onto 11th Street, the emergency vehicles will not be able to access Montgomery Place. I think we'll take that as a comment, and unless somebody has something they'd like to say on that topic.
All I will add, Shalise, is that it basically goes back to the question we just answered. The city has not got a fixed timeline, I believe, for either the 11th Street project or the Circle Drive West. And so how they come together in the future will determine what status of the rail crossings actually becomes as these improvements are made. We don't know that today.
Great, thank you, Henry. That's a great answer. 22nd Street westbound, wanting to exit onto Fairlight or Circle Drive southbound, access seems to be removed, as well as access from 22nd Street westbound to access Fairhaven. Parkridge Montgomery appears to only have one access with the proposed changes via Diefenbaker. This will be very congested with having Diefenbaker as the only access to these three communities from 22nd Street westbound. Don't quite see a question there, so we'll take that comment into consideration. The next is, what is the consideration for truck traffic southbound circle? So I think here, I'm not sure exactly what the question is about, but Henry did mention a route from 22nd Street onto Circle Drive southbound for trucks traveling in from the regional highway network. Did you want to go over that piece again, maybe, Henry?
I can. It's very similar to a question I think we answered just a little earlier. If we assume that this, contrary to what's happening today or what did happen until the southwest Circle Drive was complete, this used to be the heavy movement. This now becomes the heavy movement, we think. So trucks can turn right, avoid both the Confederation and Circle Drive signals, and make a right turn. So that, again, that was one of the issues that a stakeholder brought to our attention. So we were glad we could fit that in using existing structures. The return movement, they will exit. They do not hit the signals at Clancy, and they make this left turn and go southbound. Again, this is operating more efficiently than it does today, and this will, by nature, be an efficient traffic signal operation.
Okay.
And then the city still has to look at what it's going to do with Diefenbaker.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Henry. The next, does the current plan ensure compliance of NFPA 1710 fire protection into Montgomery Place? And I'm not sure if we have a specific answer to such a specific question here tonight, but I can answer that Fire and Protective Services is one of our stakeholders, and they continue to be on large-scale transportation projects such as this. Did anybody have anything to add, or should I move to the next question?
What maybe I would add, this plan simply can't be viewed in isolation. It's got to be viewed together with what's going on here. And the city's going to be, as you said, speaking with the emergency services people. And so they will have a say in what this implementation plan ultimately looks like, so that they are not having their response times compromised.
Perfect, thank you. The next one, is Clancy Drive exit going to be an underpass?
Yes, it is.
The next one was a comment. I'm just hoping the plans don't involve closing either Clancy Drive or Laurier Drive. Happy to let you know that we're not planning to close either completely. I'll move to the next one. Any thoughts to allow access between Fairhaven and Meadow Green at Clancy Drive and 18th Street West going under the rail tracks? I'm not sure that was included within the scope of this project. And I'm not sure how to answer that question or who to send it to. Shaliza, maybe?
Yeah, thanks, Chelsea. I guess I would say that wasn't a goal of this plan. We were looking specifically at Circle, focusing on Clancy and Laurier. So no, that's not something that we did consider.
Thank you. Already answered that one. Was any consideration given to people who travel between West End areas like Park Ridge, Fairhaven, and Pacific Heights and downtown, particularly during peak traffic times? I will maybe throw this one to Henry.
So what I can add is we looked at what the city's traffic model had to tell us about the volumes in this area and what was on the existing system, and then those were reassigned to the new system. The city then ran their volumes based on what our network then looked like with the changes in it. And so the performance then that we measured in the road system based on the reassigned volumes, I can only assume that that is the answer to the question that's been asked.
Yep, I think it is. So yes, all of those trips from that neighborhood essentially were included in the analysis, is kind of what I heard.
Yeah, to the extent that those trips were represented in the volumes we saw along the corridor we're studying.
Perfect. The next one, open house number 2, memo number 7, miscellaneous concerns states a possible reduction in access for emergency responders. Is this referring to Montgomery? What has been done to address this possible reduction? I think we have answered this question previously, where we're always talking to our emergency response teams, and we'll continue to speak with them in the rollout of this long-term plan. Shaliza or Henry, anything to add?
No, I don't. I think we've addressed that a couple of times, and you're staying in contact with EMS, and as you develop plans that get closer to implementation, you will continue to make sure they are satisfied that they can get around with the response times they need.
Yeah, nothing to add from me, Chelsea.
Okay. The next one is the pedestrian overpass crossing 22nd Street just east of Circle Drive West going to remain in place? I'll pass that one to Shaliza maybe. Or I could answer that it wasn't included in this project and it's planned to remain. As far as
yep, and our roadway upgrading doesn't have to impact it, so it's unchanged.
Perfect. The next one is just a comment. Why are we so concerned about connecting Fairmont Drive? Folks can easily head up Fairlight, go down Diefenbaker and turn onto 22nd. The original on-ramp should be gone to begin with. Thank you for that comment. The next one, what is the expected timeline? I think we've answered this, but what is the expected timeline for the 11th Street interchange to be completed following the South Circle project? We need some train relief in Montgomery from daily train traffic delays. Why do we have to wait so long for a solution? I'll pass that one to Shaliza.
Hi, yeah, again, as Chelsea said, we've talked about this, and we unfortunately don't have a timeline at this point. The rail relocation and versus grade separation study was presented to City Council in March of 2018. And that was the concept work that was shown at tonight's presentation. And I believe Chelsea will be posting some additional information and links for you if you'd want to read up on that a bit more.
Thank you, Shaliza. And I'll just add that, reiterate again, that project is on the infrastructure priority list for transportation within the Saskatoon Transportation Master Plan, along with all other projects citywide. The next question, why can't another lane be created from Clancy Drive to 11th Street to retain the 11th Street exit that is currently there? Pass that one to Henry.
Yeah, I think we've probably answered this one a number of times. Now that this is a free flow facility, we do not have traffic signals which alternate the movements. Now this movement has to enter, and it cannot do that at the same time as we have another high-speed movement trying to exit. So this takes precedence, and this got moved here. And then ultimately the city's plan for this interchange will probably modify this, but that'll take care of the grade separations.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Next one, how much more time would that trip take with extra lights getting from Laurier onto South Circle Drive? I'm going to pass that one maybe to Henry. I'm not sure if we have an answer for that.
Yeah, I don't know that we have time. Let me, there we go. So this is the Laurier Drive. I'm looking at the right ones here. Wait a minute, here we go. So if we look at this intersection of Laurier Drive and Confederation. I think we mentioned it a minute ago. We're not convinced that this is going to be it's going to have a bigger impact than this is not going to have, I think, a measurable bigger impact than this movement here that exists today. So here are the current movements to and from the south at Laurier, and now they're going to have to go this way. So as far as distance is concerned, it's not an increase, but they're going to have a left turn and then a right turn. Once this is being built, the city's going to be looking at these signals being this close together, so they're going to be coordinated. So this could be, I'm going to guess, almost as efficient as what you see here.
Okay. We're coming near the end of our time. So I know that I have about 45 things here that haven't been answered yet. So we'll do our best to go through these questions after tonight's presentation and post some information to the Engage page on them. I will also put in the chat the contact information for me again, in case you have additional questions after tonight, so that you can get in contact with me and I can in turn get in contact with whoever I need to on the project team. I will also post the links to the rail relocation versus grade separation report, since there was a lot of interest in that tonight. In closing, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join the discussion with us tonight. As stated earlier in the meeting, if you are unable to have your question answered or you think of something else in the coming weeks, there are 3 ways that you can contact me to provide additional comments. Those are our project Engage page, email, or by phone. So I'll post those contacts in the chat box right now. Give me a moment here. We'll be receiving comments until November 18th. Which is about a month from now. After that, we'll close the comment period and we'll finalize the plan. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their evening, and thank you again for joining us tonight.